Hi, I'm Dr. Barry Singer, Director of the MS Center for Innovations in Care at Missouri Baptist Medical Center in St. Louis. I was happy to present at ECTRIMS the phase 3 EVOLVE-MS-1 clinical trial. And so we presented the data looking at 1,057 patients who were enrolled in a single-arm trial looking at diroximel fumarate in patients with relapsing-remitting multiple sclerosis, ages 18 to 65. And so the bottom line is we looked at tolerability and safety, as well as efficacy measures. And overall, the experience was quite good, with very low discontinuation rates. As many of you are familiar with, dimethyl fumarate has been around for a number of years for the treatment of relapsing forms of MS. And so we've had good experience with the medication. However, we do know in clinical trials and that we have some discontinuation due to GI adverse events. And the clinical trial, the head-to-head EVOLVE-MS-2 trial, for example, 4.8% of patients on diroximel fumarate ended up having discontinuation of GI problems versus 0.8% on diroximel fumarate. And so the goal is both medications are converted into monomethyl fumarate within rapidly as they get absorbed in the GI tract. But the advantage of diroximel fumarate is improved tolerability. So with this studies, we're going to look at how patients do on diroximel fumarate over 96 weeks in the EVOLVE-MS-1 trials. So the patients that were in the EVOLVE-MS-2 were, in general, the patients were relapsing-remitting MS, and they were ages 18 to 65. One of the important criteria is that they could not have any significant GI symptoms or active GI symptoms within 3 months prior to screening. So this was a single-arm clinical trial, so we did not have a comparator group. But if you looked at the number of relapses before people entered the study and then on treatment over the 96-week study, you could see that there was an 82% reduction in annualized relapse rate in the overall cohort. We also looked at newly diagnosed patients, and their relapses the year before the study to the 2 years on trial dropped by 89%. So very good data for these newly diagnosed patients as well. In addition, we looked at contrast-enhancing lesions, so gadolinium-enhancing lesions. And from baseline to on treatment, you saw a 73% reduction in gadolinium-enhancing lesions, so quite robust there. Over the 96 weeks, we also looked at freedom from disability progression. And so that was very good. So it's 90.2% of patients were free from disability progression over 96 weeks. And if you looked at the 48-week mark, it was 93.4%. So a lot of patients did not progress in terms of disability. So if you look at safety concerns, particularly safety signals of interest, one would be GI adverse events. So overall, GI adverse events in diroximel fumarate was 32% in this 96-week study and 27% for flushing. So overall, pretty good. And even better was looking at discontinuation rates, because that's what you want to know in practice. Is someone going to discontinue? And so for GI adverse events was 0.7%, and for flushing was only 0.5% of patients discontinued due to flushing. And if you looked at the lymphocyte counts, another concern on fumarate therapy, the mean absolute lymphocyte count stayed above the lower limit of normal. Future studies and unanswered questions, I think there's definitely more post-marketing data that's being collected, real-world evidence, and broader patient populations looking at clinical activity, radiologic activity, and even biomarkers. So, and then there were also ongoing investigations looking at switching from various therapies to diroximel fumarate. So we want to see over time what happens when patients switch over. Particularly, it would be kind of interesting as if some patients are shifting off of B cells with immunosenescence and aging. I think it's an important question.